Good morning, everybody. Namaste. It's good to see you all today. Welcome. Welcome to Awakening Ways Spiritual Community. Awakening Ways is a New Thought spiritual community in the lineage of Dr. Ernest Holmes. We're a community that believes that there's a golden thread of truth and love that winds its way through all great spiritual traditions. And that whatever spiritual tradition you've come from, your tradition has had at least a part of that thread. Here at Awakening Ways, we believe that our job is to help you to find that thread within you, which is the thread of awakening to your own divinity, awakening to that divine presence in you as you. We do that in a bunch of different ways. We do it through uplifting talks like this morning. We do it through wonderful music. We do it through prayer, through meditation, workshops, classes. We do it in a variety of different ways with one and only one goal, and that's for you to find the divinity in yourself. I have said many times, there's only one true religion in the world, and that true religion is the one that takes you to your awakening. So wherever you came from to be with us on this call this morning, whatever your spiritual path may have been in the past, for right now, for this delicious moment, we are together in sacred community. And so for right now, welcome home. We've been waiting for you. I'd like you to join me, if you will. Just put all thoughts aside for the moment. Close your eyes and know with me. There's a divine truth, a divine spirit, a divine oneness, an infinite creator, creating out of itself as itself. It is that creator that we call God, that we call by so many names, and it doesn't matter what name we call it. For it is the creator of all, not in 7 days or even 7 million days, but eternally and infinitely. I know that this is true. And I know that this is my truth, for I am part of it, as I am part of its creation. And as it's true for me, I know that it's true for each of us on this call. I know that Dr. Terry, as she opens herself to spirit this morning, speaks from that pure, creative voice that brings to us new ways of seeing truth, of understanding truth, and of living truth. I know for our musicians this morning that they are divinely guided and led to write the perfect music, to pick the perfect music, and to sing from that perfect flow of divine harmonies. And I know for each of us that we hear exactly what we need to hear this morning. For that, I am so truly grateful for all of the creative miracles unfolding right here and right now. I give thanks. I've spoken my word of love. I know that that love has impelled the divine law into motion. And knowing there's nothing more I need do but let this morning unfold naturally, I do it now. And I say, and so it is. Amen.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Walking down the avenue. it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This magnificent light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This magnificent light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This magnificent light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Namaste. The light and love of the divine in me honors and greets the light and love of the divine in each and every one of you here this morning. I'm happy to be here with you. We made a strange choice. I know we made a strange choice. We decided to spend the month of October looking at the Serenity Prayer. We thought maybe during this month, with everything that's going on, that people might need strategies or tools or ideas to help stay in that flow of serenity. And so this is our third week in looking at the prayer. And just as a reminder of what the Serenity Prayer is, the Serenity Prayer says, the short version of the Serenity Prayer, there's a longer version as well. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Powerful words. And this word change is at the heart of the Serenity Prayer, isn't it? It's about the serenity to accept change and the courage to make change. And so this morning we are exploring the phrase, the courage to change the things I can. I decided to just kind of write my own definitions of what I thought or what I felt courage was. And so here's what courage means to me. Courage means to recognize and acknowledge your fear, and then to choose to move ahead and do the thing you know you really need to do, and to do the thing you were sure that you absolutely could not do. To paraphrase Eleanor Roosevelt. Courage is also, in my thinking, facing what seems to be impossible and stepping into that seeming impossibility anyway. That is courage. And just two little addendums to that. One is that courage is saying yes and meaning yes. And courage is also saying no and meaning it when we say it. There's a little saying that says no is a complete sentence. And so that's part of courage as well. So as we think about changes, what are the changes we have to make, and why do we need courage to do them? Well, the Serenity Prayer has been around for quite a while, and it has been adopted by the majority of the 12-step programs out there. The 12-step program support groups of all kinds everywhere. And 12-step programs, as you probably know, are primarily, they deal with some kind of addictive behavior. Addictive, by addictive, I mean a persistent, seemingly uncontrollable behavior that takes over the mind, body, and soul of the one who has it. I think that's a good description of what that is, what addiction is. And we often think of addictions like alcohol, drugs, sex, gambling, codependency, and other forms of destructive behavior as these seemingly uncontrollable behaviors. And absolutely, I want to get clear about this, that that these behaviors, these addictions that we call them, are real life challenges and require an enormous amount of courage and commitment to change them. I have nothing but pure honor and respect for those who walk that path. But in addition, life brings to us an infinite number of ongoing opportunities to make changes. Yeah, we don't have to look very far. And many of these changes require great courage. Many of them, when you think about your own life and you look back on your own life, how many times did you have to muster up courage in order to do something you found very difficult to do? Maybe a marriage was ending, maybe a relationship was ending, and you had to deal with that. And so you had to, you probably spent days, maybe weeks, maybe months, maybe years, trying to summon up the courage to be able to face this decision and this change that you felt you needed to make. Maybe you had to leave your job. Maybe you had to move. For many of us, even retiring requires courage. Yeah. So as you look back, you can see that each of the changes, these big changes that I'm talking about, there was this recognition that was going on within you, and it, these changes, they just move, they just become a part of our everyday thinking. We just they actually possess us, obsess us, and there's this recognition that something needed to change. Something absolutely had to change. We had reached that point, and the change had to be in us. That's where the change had to take place, not in the event, not in the situation, not in the other person. The change had to come from within us. And, we've all moved through these. We're here, we're alive to tell the tale. And we've gone through many of these changes. Life unfolds and we march through it, and we think we're not going to make it, and then here we are. And then we look back and we say, well, how did I do that? How in the world did I ever make it when I thought I absolutely was not going to? You'd think then that with all of these things that have happened to us for all of these years, that changes and making decisions and those kinds of things, those choices would become easier, right? The older you get, the wiser you get. And so everything just becomes easier. Well, no, no, I'm here to testify that absolutely is not true. And there's a reason for that. There really is a reason. These changes that are required, these difficulties that we encounter in our lives, arrive here at this moment in time to serve us where we are in consciousness right now. Wherever we are in consciousness right now, this required change is tailor-made for us for this moment in time. This is why it doesn't get easier, because the changes are about us and they are made for us. And so they are literally what we need to move through, at this specific moment in time. To those of you who have been following the changes in our lives, our move from one location to another, you have had a front row seat, front and center, to witness my own personal struggle with this change. Oh, yes. Whining, wailing, moaning, resisting, throwing tantrums, all of this. You've only seen the smallest piece. And I just want to thank you for tolerating it. I appreciate that. But well, here's where we are, with all of my wailing and with all of my suffering, it has been to no avail, because change has happened. The fix is in, it's happening now. And I can either continue to rally against what is going on, or I can step into it. I can have the courage to step into it. Those are my choices. Wah, 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 or, do something. If only it was that easy, yeah. So far, it is a process, let me say that. So far, I think that I can truthfully say that I've been courageous and am stepping into the physical move itself, the moving furniture around, unpacking boxes. I've gotten out of my frozen zone. So I am doing that. But here's what I have not done. What I have not done is I have not changed my emotional response to this move. I haven't changed it. And this piece, this inability for me to change this emotional part of this move requires the most courage that I can possibly summon. And here's the thing, this is the truth. It's the truth for me, and it is the truth for you. We can make new choices and we can create new changes all we want, but we will never, ever truly change ourselves until we modify that emotional component of the change that we're working on. Do you hear what I'm saying? We can change our behaviors. We can change our situations. We can change our locations. We can do all of those things, but we're not going to change ourselves until we change ourselves emotionally around whatever this thing is that we're doing. There's this little internal click that has to happen. This little click that moves us to a place where we can say that we truly, fully, wholly, and completely embody this change in our minds, in our hearts, and in our souls. This is what is required. Otherwise, we are only partially changed. We're not fully changed. I came across a great quote by Maya Angelou. She says, "Do the best you can until you know better. Then, when you know better, do better." I'll read it again. Do the best you can until you know better. Then, when you know better, do better. And so I'm going to say for myself, and maybe for you too, in whatever stage of change you are in around whatever's going on in your life, that I recognize that I have not fully made this embodied change. I recognize it. I'm talking about it. I mean, I'm giving this talk for me because I need to hear it for myself. And so I know that it's something that I need to do, and it's something that I need to work on, that I have to make that shift. And so I'm learning. I'm learning to do better. I'm learning slowly. And I know that when this change that's moving in me fully has its way with me and I allow it all to take place, that I will come to that place where it will be embodied. And this is true for all of us if we allow it to be so. So in looking at change this morning, we can see that it absolutely does require courage and bravery. Some changes require more, some require less, but they all require some kind of courage, because change is hard and scary. Because why? Because we're stepping into the unknown. We're sailing on uncharted waters for ourselves. We are in a state of free fall. And that is a heightened state of vulnerability. And vulnerability is very, very, very uncomfortable, right? Not a wonderful place to make a home in. And so change is about that. And we swim in those uncharted waters feeling extremely vulnerable. But we come to a point where we finally realize that even no matter what, no matter how painful it is, we must make a change. We've come to that place. We can't deny it anymore. We have to move ahead. We have to change. And when we do, we often find that we feel this sense of panic, maybe a sense of confusion and fear. These kinds of emotions are not a good place to be making any kind of major decision from, right? Sometimes we can get so wrapped up in things that we literally become frozen. We're unable to move. We're unable to do anything but just sit in that fear, confusion, and terror, because something is changing and we know we need to do it. Months ago, I came across, actually, I kept coming across it. I've always come across it. This thing that Ernest Holmes says, and he uses these three words together often in his writing. And I wrote them down in my little notebook, and I thought, I don't want to lose these words. They're important words to me. And lo and behold, they're important for you this morning too. And those three words are peace, poise, and power. Have you heard that or seen that when you're reading Ernest Holmes? He talks about it. He talks about it when he's talking about moving into prayer, that we move into a place of peace and poise and power. For us, peace, poise, and power can help strengthen and build our courage as we march through inevitable changes that will have to be made in our life. If you're not experiencing anything now, well, probably there will be something coming someday. So this idea of peace, poise, and power is good for all of us for any number of reasons. But before we can even start to look at change, before we can even entertain the possibility of change, we first have to come to a place of sanity. We have to get sane in some way. We have to be able to become quiet and still and calm at some level, because nothing can happen if we are in a crazy, nutty state of mind. And I'm using these words because, I have been living in this crazy, insane mindset. And no wonder I'm struggling, because when I'm here, I cannot find peace. If I cannot find my way back to my senses, I will never find peace, and I will never be able to make a change within myself. So we have to find a way to calm ourselves, to return to our senses, and then to just begin to entertain the smallest possibility of change. Don't attack the whole thing at once, but just open to the possibility calmly and peacefully. And quite honestly, all you may be able to do if you're in a state like I was, all you may be able to do is to just take one deep, fully embodied breath, to breathe it in fully and to let it go. That may be all you can do. That may be the only peace you may be able to experience in the moment. But you know what? That's enough, because that's a place to begin, isn't it? That's where we can start. And so from this place of peace, we can move ahead. And this peace is necessary. It's not just a good idea. It is necessary before any meaningful change can take place. You know, last month we talked about centering, right? Centered. And last week we had some really good strategies, some really good ideas to help us find calmness and peace. And I encourage you, you can go to YouTube and you can listen to the talks from last month and do that. Go back and find some ideas for yourself if you need new ways to get centered and find peace. You can always just practice that deep breathing. But once we've come to a place where we've calmed ourselves, we've returned to our senses, and we found some degree of peace, then we are able to make informed decisions from that divine centered place within us. Ernest Holmes tells us that peace alone gives rise to poise. Poise is that really odd little word, isn't it? I don't use that word in my everyday language, but the definition for poise is a state of balance, composure, steadfastness, and self-confidence. Well, darn. I think I want to add that to my list of words, because I want to be that. I want to be balanced, composed, steady, and self-confident, don't you? And haven't you known people who, when you think about them, that word poise is the perfect description for them? I think about people who are poised as people who just kind of float along. You know, they just kind of float through life without completely unruffled. Things just don't bother them. They maintain that poise and composure. So being filled with peace and calmness allows us then to look at the changes before us in a balanced, composed, steady, and self-confident way. And then we can move ahead with the changes from a place of poise. A much better place to be than a place of panic and fear and discomfort. So poise comes with a sense of knowing that we've made the right choice for ourselves. You know, this choice for change is right for us. And poise allows us to trust that we can indeed hold fast to our decision and our commitment to change. So we need that poise to help us. But this period of time before we've completely made the change and we're in the throes of change, this is a time where we need to be very careful in this process of change, because this is that midpoint where we may decide to change our minds again. We may decide to rationalize what we're doing and think maybe a different decision would be better. Or we may just fall back into that old pattern, you know, back into inertia, and allow ourselves to just be swept into that vortex of the past. So it is important that we maintain our poise, and whatever it is that will help us maintain this poise is great. You know, we want to be steady and steadfast. And one of the things that can help us with that is finding other people who can help us stay steady, stay centered, and stay in that place of poise. You know, we have been hunkered down, right? We've been sheltered in place for months and months now. And I remember several months ago, I don't know why, but boys on bicycles keep appearing in my experience. But in this situation, Frank and I decided that we just wanted to go over to the Atascadero Park and just go over there and just sit, or just go out and sit in the green grass and get some fresh air. And it was during COVID, so there were very, very few people over there, except that we were sitting on this bench, and there was this young boy. He looked like he was about, maybe he was 5 or 6. And he was on this bicycle and on the sidewalk there at the park. And his mother was behind him. And it was obvious that he was just learning how to ride this two-wheeler. Okay, so he's on the bike, he's holding the handlebars, she's holding on to the seat as he's pedaling and going down the sidewalk. And then she does the unthinkable. She let go of the seat and she let him go. And he started riding the bike. And she's yelling and she's saying, "You're doing it. You're doing it. Good for you. Oh, you're doing it. Look at you. You're doing it." And it was all Frank and I could do to keep from getting up and just starting to yell, ourselves. Yes, yes, you're doing it. You're doing it. And the little, the front wheel is wobbling all over the sidewalk. But by golly, he stayed on that bike. And he rode it, down the sidewalk. He eventually got off the bike, but he didn't fall off the bike. And it was, we looked at each other, and it was like remarkable that we got to witness this thing. And I said, for most of us, 2020 has just been maybe a year to remember, but maybe not in the greatest of ways. But for this little guy, 2020 was the year that he learned how to ride his bike. How fabulous is that? Yay. And Frank and I get to live that goodness also. But what I could see was that having his mom behind him yelling, and she was yelling at the top of her lungs, having her back there yelling and encouraging him, actually held and supported him on that bike. I think this is what we all need when we start feeling wobbly in our change process. Man, we need a support team. We need someone to encourage us. We need someone or someones to help us move through it all until we're able to fully embody the change we seek. And this is why people go to support groups. This is why people come to spiritual communities, because this is what they provide. And we are so grateful for that. They help us maintain that peace and poise, to stay steady, to stay balanced, to make that change. And finally, when we've come to peace and that poise has come, and we've reached a place of acceptance around the change we're undergoing, what we find is that just naturally we feel, and I'm going to use the word empowered. The word is empowered, but I'm going to say empowered, because we are filled with a renewed sense of power that we didn't have before. And it doesn't necessarily show itself on the outside. This is an inner strength that comes to us, that is revealed within us as a result of our courageous move through making these changes. And it's the self-confidence that we gain as well, that we never even had before, never even knew was possible for us to have. because we were courageous enough to move through a difficult time of change and come out of it on the other side. And when this happens, this new strength, this inner change that's within us begins to spill over in all areas of our lives. We begin to find that we're less afraid, we're less anxious. We have a renewed sense of inner calmness and poise that just begin to fill us. I think that, like that little boy, when we have finally made it through a change, we want to shout for ourselves, we've done it, yay, yippee for us. And what have we done? What have we really, really done? What we have done is we have proven to ourselves that we were able to make this hard-won change, and we made it for ourselves. We didn't make it for someone else. We didn't make it to change anything out there. We made this change for ourselves. And when we look back, we know we absolutely had to do that. We had to do that. Well, I'm not going to tell you anything new. Life brings with it change. We can feel the world, and I've really felt that this week. We can feel the world literally spinning, and we can see chaos building everywhere. I mean, it seems at this particular moment in time, and we can't change that. We can't change all of that. But with courage and with peace and poise and power, we can change ourselves. And if all of us today, if all of us who are sitting here right now, if all of us made a choice to change just one thing, one little thing, we would make the world better, wouldn't we? Just by that one little thing that we change. But the change has to be within ourselves. So I have a suggestion. I'm going to suggest that you try this change. And you only have to do it once, or you could do it every day. That might be fun too. But here's my suggestion. Find the courage to say one nice thing to yourself about yourself and mean it. Find the courage to say one nice thing to yourself about yourself and really, really mean it. Can you do that? I think it's a wonderful idea because it changes you the minute you do it. And it's a change for good. Let's just keep those changes happening. Let's just keep building our courage. Let's just keep allowing ourselves to experience peace, poise, and power. And we will see change within us and around us. It won't be long. Namaste.
your breast. Oh, world, you are beautifully dressed. Oh, wonderful, beautiful, wild world, with the wind in your hair as you turn and twirl. Under your tree I lay down to rest. Oh, world, you are beautifully dressed. And all the stars in the night sky, they're shining. All the blues in the ocean. Wonderful, beautiful, vibrant you, with a smile so bright and a heart so true, and beautiful eyes to light your way. Let's step out and breathe this beautiful day. All the stars in the night sky shining. All the blues in the ocean. Oh, wonderful, beautiful, wide blue. Oh, wonderful waters around you, girl. And the beautiful grasses around your breast. Oh, wonderful, beautiful, wide girl. Oh, wonderful waters around you, girl. And the beautiful grasses around your breast. And the beautiful grasses upon your breast. Oh, world, you are wonderfully, beautifully, wildly blessed.
Thank you, Soulshine and Jimmy, singing with them before. Jimmy, it's nice to see you out and about. A reminder that one of the things that we always believe in is prayer. And that if you are in need of prayer for any purpose, you have only to contact us and let us know, and the soul support team will be blessed and overjoyed to pray for you for the week. You can call the office at 805-460-0762 and leave your message, your prayer request on the phone there, and just introduce yourself and your name and phone number and say this is a prayer request, and then tell us what you need. Or you can email us at awakeningways@thegrid.net and put prayer request in the subject line. Simple, easy peasy. We'll pray for you for a week. And if at the end of a week you still need us to continue, then let us know again and we'll continue to do the prayer work. A reminder that Dr. Terry's wonderful talk this morning, it was really good, is going to be on YouTube. It'll probably get on there Tuesday. Usually that's when it winds up getting on, and you can always watch this again, and you can watch any of the ones we've done on Zoom on YouTube at any time you want. They're in chronological order. If you go on YouTube and you click on the Awakening Way Spiritual Community channel, and you'll know it's our channel because you'll see our little logo. Click on that, and it'll list all of our talks in chronological order. Not only Terry and mine, but all guest speakers. This coming Saturday, which is 10/24, October 24th, from 10 to 1, there's going to be a books and gift sale at the office. It's going to be 50% off of all gifts and 25% off of books. So bring your mask, bring your cash, your credit cards, your checkbook, whatever, and shop early for the holidays. And finally, remember that Awakening Ways only exists, even though Terry and I are sitting in our home, the office still exists. All of our bills continue. It only exists because of your donations. So you can mail a check to Awakening Ways at 7350 El Camino, Suite 101, Atascadero, or you can go to our website, click on the Awakening Ways, click on Awakening Ways in the menu bar, and the page that comes up will have a PayPal button on it toward the bottom. I want you to know how much we appreciate your continued support. I cannot tell you how many ministers I talk to whose communities have really had shortfalls because people simply are not contributing at this point in time. And yet, if we're not in the black still for the month, for this year, it's a very small amount that we're not. And that's because of you and your contributions. We really, really appreciate it. And with that, I want to give you my blessing. As you walk through this week, God's calling. As you walk through this week, may you know peace. May you know love. May you be encapsulated. May you be cocooned in God's love, God's protection, and God's perfect right action in your life this week and for as long as you live. Many blessings. Namaste, and so it is.